Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be about why so many marriages in the West are failing when couples choose to live with in-laws. For a bit of context, I live with my in-laws and I've been living with my in-laws for 10 years. I am currently 30. I got married when I was 21 and I'm going to be 31 in a few months. So yeah, I chose to live with my in-laws from the beginning and I choose to stay here. One thing I've noticed amongst today's generation is divorce is very much on the rise. It's so common for people to get divorced these days, and you know, I think that's a really good thing because it gives people a chance to make mistakes and kind of test the waters before committing long-term, like rest of your life, which is what marriage is, to being with somebody, and instead of wasting your life being unhappy. I have nothing against divorce, but a lot of people, myself included, would want to not get divorced because, let's be real, we love our husbands. I love my husband. My husband is the love of my life and I really want to stay with him. I want to make things work. For me, marriage is not just I'm happy, but we're all happy. A lot of young people are living with in-laws still. In the East, it's a very normal thing. It's widely accepted. You live with your in-laws. Nobody bats an eyelid. Everyone's like, yeah, okay. That's a typical South Asian household in South Asia where someone is living with their in-laws. But when you take these South Asians and you bring them here into the West, living with in-laws becomes a very taboo and stigmatizing thing to do. And a lot of people are not really speaking or thinking highly of it, especially a lot of young women. And that's because over the years we've realized that women who used to live with in-laws were mostly forced to live with their in-laws, and they had to endure a lot of difficult situations and abuse, which is not pretty, and it's not something we want to carry on. We don't want our daughters entering into this type of situation. We want our daughters to live happy, fulfilling lives where they're not feel like they're being taken advantage of, and where they feel like they have some sort of control and rights. First and foremost, Islam gives women the rights. Islam gives women so many rights. Women can live separately away from the husband's family if they choose to do so, and this is a right that God has given women in Islam. If a woman chooses to, she can live separately, and a man has to provide a separate accommodation for his wife, which is her own living area. It could be a room, a bathroom, and like a kitchen area space. So that's the bare minimum a man has to provide for a woman according to Islam. Now, one thing about us South Asians is we have a long-standing culture of living with parents. We have a long-standing culture of living jointly with many family members, and that's just how it's always been. And some will say that's how it always will be because a lot of people really like to hold on to their culture and their traditions, and they don't want to let that thing go. But nowadays in the West, it's not very common. Like, even amongst the elder generation strive to see their young ones being independent, being able to move out, being able to buy their own house. Like, think about it. A lot of elder people, they've been working their whole life, especially in the West, especially the women. Like, they want to retire. They want to be able to go on holidays. They want to be able to live in peace in their own homes. And many of them also don't, even if they're South Asian, many of them don't want their sons living with them post-marriage. But we are in a bit of a predicament right now where actually a lot of people are living with their in-laws, and it's not just their in-laws. Sometimes couples are also living in their own homes and not together. I feel like a huge part of this reason is mainly because of how difficult it is now to actually buy a house. Buying a house has become so expensive, and as a young person it is going to take significantly longer for us to save up and buy a house than it was for our past generations, so like our mom and dad, or even our grandma and grandpa. Back in the day, you could buy a house for something like £20,000. That same house now is like nearly £500,000. So the jump in housing value has really gone up, but the average salary a young person of today can make has not really gone up by much. Add to that all the other things that us young people feel like we have to spend our money on, like social media really makes consumerism a necessity. So it's back in the day, nobody cared. Like if you're poor, like makeup and like all these like nice things, it wasn't needed. Nobody cared. Like nobody even saw you. You were at home most of the time, and if you had to go out, you'd have like one dress or like one lipstick that you would put on. And now it's like we have to have everything because we live our lives online. You know, people are watching us, and we need to be on our best behavior and looking like we have it all together 24/7. And unfortunately, this type of mindset and lifestyle costs money. Us young people want to live this amazing, luxurious lifestyle where we can afford to go on holiday, we can afford to eat out, we can afford everyday luxuries, and at the same time, we want to own a house and we want to have all of these things, yet we don't actually make enough money. So many of us are stuck in a situation where we either move out, live in a house or apartment, live paycheck to paycheck, sometimes barely getting by, or you have the easy way out, which is live with your family, which a lot of people do, and you know, try to save as much as you can but not compromise on the things that you need to live, because nowadays we need to eat out. We need to go on holiday, like, and let me be real, me as a person, I do not want to compromise on those things. I really enjoy my life as it is. I go on holiday so much, okay? I have an addiction to nice clothes, nice scarves. Like I like a really nice headscarf, and for me to move out and, you know, pay rent, and that means I have to work more. You know, I can't just sit at home and post these videos. I have to be earning good money and making sacrifices. I have to put my baby in nursery most likely, and I really don't want to do that. I don't want to sacrifice that love and time that I have with my little one by putting him in nursery and sacrificing my comfort just so I can own a house. And you know what, that's a lot of young people these days. You know, we are okay with living with our family, but what happens is social media, young people nowadays, they think if you are living with your in-laws as a desi person, you are being controlled by them. That they think that your mother-in-law is bossing you around. They think your mother-in-law is trying to make you a slave at home. And oftentimes, me being somebody who's always in the public eye, especially with my page, a lot of people tend to assume that my in-laws are making me do a lot of work around the house. I do post a lot of cooking content, and my content does revolve around housework because that's what I do. I don't do anything else. I stay at home and I don't really work. I look after my baby. As an extension of that, I also do housework because, you know, somebody has to clean up. Of course, my mother-in-law does help me, and we both do chores evenly, but it seems as though there's this huge stigma on living with in-laws nowadays, where people think that nothing from the past has really changed, and that young girls these days are still trapped in these living situations where we are being forced to cook and clean against our will. If that is you right now, if you're living with in-laws and they're expecting you to cook and clean against your will, do understand that you can say no, and you can stand up for yourself, and you can not do it, okay? But also realize that if you're living under someone else's roof and they're paying your bills, they're paying your heating, they're paying your lighting bill, they are saving you money so that you can live a comfortable life, you do understand that you have to also contribute in some way. And I know it's really hard, but part of that is maybe cleaning up after yourself at the very least. You know, maybe cooking some dinner every now and then at the very least. You're not a slave, but that's just what you need to do nowadays to live. And technology, alhamdulillah, has made it easier for us young people to be domesticated, like hoovers, pressure cookers. You know, there's so many inventions nowadays. The other day I saw this intelligent hoover. It's like a sweeping robot. It's like this round thing, and it basically just like mops and cleans your house for you. It's so clever. It like maps out all of the rooms in your house, and then it hoovers and mops for you, so you don't even have to do that. You can just get one of these sweeping robots. So technology has actually made it so much easier for us to do housework. We have washing machines, we have kettle, we even have like instant foods now, you know, instant noodles, instant rice. Everything is just easy, instant, available, accessible, and it doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take a lot of effort. People still, they see that and there's a stigma that if you're doing too much at home, you are now a slave, you are now a daughter-in-law who's going to be pushed around and people are going to tell you what to do. But half the time that's not even the case. This is just our situation now as young people, you know. And I feel like this stigma where if you are living with in-laws and you tell people, because I could exist on social media not really telling anybody anything about my life. Like, you see this room, I could say, hey, this is my own house, I live here by myself, no in-laws. Easy peasy, no one would bat an eyelid. My in-laws would keep quiet as well, no one would care. But then, you know, then it would be me being ashamed and making it seem like it is a shameful thing to live with your in-laws. It's not a shameful thing at all to live with your in-laws. If you are in a position where you're stuck living with in-laws for a while, it's not a shameful thing at all. Many people these days are just about getting by. Many people these days are housing their elders and nobody knows about it. They don't publicize it on social media. And for me, I feel like it's really important to be honest, you know, as a person, especially as an influencer online where so many people are lying about their situation. I'm here and I'm telling you I live with my in-laws, and I've been living with my in-laws for 10 years and I'm okay with it, and I do housework and I help out and I'm okay with it, and it's okay. It's not slavery. One thing we can all agree on is to get the type of future that you want, you're not going to get it instantly. You see all these celebrities, social media, famous people buying their homes at the age of 20, 25, living in mansions, and mashallah, they're so blessed. But the average person is not going to be that lucky, okay? We got to work with what we have, and we got to accept that reality is people struggling, people living with family, people living in rooms. That is a reality these days, and it doesn't mean you're not gonna have what you want. You are gonna get what you want, but it's gonna take time, and that's how it's always been. Ask your mom, ask your dad, ask your grandparents. It has always been this way. What they have now, they didn't always have. They had to work for it, and we have to work for it too. No one is gonna give it to us. We can't sit in marriages forcing people to give it to us either, because it's just not going to be that easy. What do we expect our men to do? Do we expect them to like sell drugs or something just to make enough money? No, it's just not going to happen. So I feel like nowadays divorce is common because of this one thing: men not being able to make enough money to be able to move out, and women not willing to compromise on their lifestyle, and also not wanting to work as much and not wanting to contribute as much. This whole clash is what I believe is contributing to so many divorces in relation to living with in-laws. For me, somebody who really doesn't want to start over, because to get to where I am right now took 10 years. It took 10 years for me to have an ensuite. I literally have an ensuite. It took 10 years for me to have this space right now in my in-laws. I was living in a tiny box room for the longest time, sharing a bathroom with other people, and I'm come to a point where 10 years later I have my own bathroom. Who knows in the next 10 years what else I could have. Waiting it out, because I know nobody lives with their in-laws forever. Nobody's stuck living with people forever. For us, it's gonna take longer. Our parents, it took what, 10 years? Then they were out, they were free, they could have their own house, they could have a huge family, and that's why so many of our parents had such big families, because they had so many more resources at hand. But us young people, we're probably gonna have 1 or 2 kids, let's be real, and it's okay. That's okay, you know. This is the world we're living in right now, and it's okay. It's okay that we're all struggling. We just have to be transparent about it, and not all of us are going to be able to make it. Some of us are going to be divorced. Some of us are going to live by ourselves and be single moms. And you know what? That's okay too. That's okay. It's okay to start again. Just because you do start over, it doesn't guarantee you're going to be in a better or in a more ideal situation. People are still going to judge you for whatever situation you are in. I am judged because I live with my in-laws constantly. People always want to tell me to move out, or they want to tell me that eventually my marriage is going to fall apart. If I did leave and I was a single mom, those same people would be telling me that, hey, you're never gonna get married. Who's gonna marry you? You have a baby. What's stopping a man from marrying Khadija, who's a virgin, never had a kid? You might have to live with in-laws again. Like, these things are always gonna be there. People are always gonna judge you. Leaving a marriage because of what other people think of that marriage is not a way to go, especially if it's an older person. Like, for example, if it's an auntie who has been divorced before, they may encourage you to also divorce because, you know, they did. They're happier now. How do you know you're gonna be like that? They were in a generation where they could start over. They were in a generation where houses weren't expensive. They could easily get what they wanted to. They were in a generation where childcare was so cheap. They were in a generation where they had so much help from their parents were helping them. Nowadays, parents don't really want to help that much anymore. Can we blame them? They literally worked their whole lives. They had like 5 or 6 kids. They're done with kids. If I had 5 or 6 kids, trust me, I would be done with kids too. So the older generation don't want to help as much anymore, and they want to retire. They want to go on holiday. If you ask them for help, they are judging you big time. Okay, they're telling you they did it all themselves. You should do it yourself. They actually didn't. They had help. So this older person is telling you now that you should leave your spouse because, you know, they left their spouse, they had a better life. How do you know you're gonna have the same advantages they had? How do you know you're gonna have the same resources they had? Same people who tell you to get out of that marriage are gonna be gone when you do. They're not gonna be there. They're not gonna be there picking you up. They're not gonna be there giving you support, giving you help. They're not gonna look after your kids for you. They're not gonna help you fight custody battles. People tell me all the time I should leave my husband, and in the beginning I used to listen, but now my ears are closed. Now you don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about my life. You don't know anything about my future. You don't know what's gonna happen. I could move out tomorrow. You don't know. Likewise, I could hit the jackpot tomorrow. You don't know. I could lose everything tomorrow. I don't know. We don't know. So my number one advice for young couples who are married, the stigma is real. You will be judged constantly. We are in a situation where all of our lives are online. Everyone's watching us. Everyone's judging us. You're gonna be judged, okay? Our parents never had that, okay? There was never 20, 30 people watching them, telling them that they're in a toxic marriage. No, it's just us. And we need that resilience as young people to move forward, because we can't take everything at face value. Other people's opinions shouldn't affect us and shouldn't affect what we choose to do with ourselves and our lives. So that's the bottom line. You don't have, if someone's telling you to leave your husband, you don't have to listen. If you really want to leave your husband, go ahead and leave your husband. If you think your life is going to be easier if you leave your husband, leave your husband. But if your life is not easier if you leave your husband, then don't be disappointed. You gotta start over again, but it's okay. You got time, girl. We're all living long lives anyways, thanks to healthcare. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye.